Oh, holy cow. That was weird. It's only weird if you make it weird. Orange and blue today. Oh, yeah. Nothing like a power outage 7 minutes before you go on air. I'm like, oh my God. And now I'm scrambling around trying to adjust lights, trying to make things happen. Hopefully this works because it looks like my internet is lagging. So yeah, technical difficulties today. Hopefully that doesn't hurt the Denver Broncos, right? So some segues are better than others, but yes, the Denver Broncos in their second round of interviews now will be conducted this week. Sean Payton will be the guy and the main target, if you will, for a lot of fans out there. Of course, hearing from a lot of fans now that want Sean Payton, want the rock star, want the splash move. I just want the right guy. I've said it time and time again. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Sean Payton or Jim Caldwell or whoever. We're going to find out about these second interviews. Dan Quinn's available, huh? So no worries about Dan Quinn. Of course, that's what happens when you are the Dallas Cowboys. I think I got a notification on Facebook so I can change my avatar to say marked safe from hearing from Cowboys fans this year. So there you go. Dan Quinn available now. Andrew Mason available. Mace, it's like a duck swimming sometimes when you work in the internet, because I had a power outage about 5 to 7 minutes before this show happened. I'm scrambling. I'm running around. I'm texting you. I'm emailing. I'm waiting. But we're here, brother. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm actually, honestly, like when everything went down, I thought we'd be starting late. And so I just, went and did a couple of things and
Freshened up.
Somehow you started on time, but without me. So I'm impressed by that. But here we are, marked safe from Cowboy fans. And now, if the Broncos do want to talk to Dan Quinn further, they're safe to do so.
Yeah, they are safe to do so. Second round, we're talking about Sean Payton. Do we know anybody else yet for second round of interviews just off the top, or we're still kind of waiting for that next group?
We still don't know. And I mean, for that matter, we don't even really know when exactly Sean Payton's going to talk. I mean, it's gone from Wednesday to Thursday. He's going to talk to Arizona now. So
is the Arizona thing Thursday? Did I read that correctly?
There's a report on that, but Adam Schefter was just on with the drive a little while ago and kind of put a little bit of cold water on Arizona being at a specific time just yet. So everything's just kind of in flux right now. There's never been a coaching search like this, and I'm talking about league wide. And I'm talking as far as a collective group of teams seeking a coach, and how so little has happened. And not only that, we seem to have so little indication as to who each team favors in this process.
Right.
I mean, with Carolina, you've heard several names, including Sean Payton's, come out. With Houston, you keep hearing DeMeco Ryans. There's a connection there, obviously, because he played there. But is that a situation
that almost prevents him from going back?
Right. He knows how the sausage is made. I mean, he played there when Bob McNair was still running the club, but I'm sure he's seen Cal McNair around the building. I think he knows. I think he knows. So, what kind of a boss Cal McNair might be, and that's the kind of thing that might make DeMeco say, "No, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait a little bit and wait for my shot there." So, it's really interesting. The other thing also is, aside from Sean Payton, there really isn't a slam dunk. And I know that there are a lot of people that are in on DeMeco Ryans, but I don't think he's a slam dunk either. I mean, I think he's obviously got some good things on his resume. He certainly has the right demeanor, but you can look at Robert Saleh going to the New York Jets, the last ex-49ers coach. And even though defensively he's done well, and we can kind of point to the issues with Zach Wilson, the results have been decidedly mixed for Robert Saleh with the Jets so far.
Right. They have been mixed, and I wrote about it at denversports.com, and so you want to check that out. I do my film room, and then I do a draft notebook on rotating days. But the Arizona things, I I love play on words, and I apologize, Mace, because I come from the Bleacher Report line where it's like, give me 3 sections and give me 3 headline little like lead things. So I loved when I wrote Houston means problems for Denver in Arizona. Now let me explain, because we're talking about D'Amico Ryans as potential target. Well, we've got Sean Payton talking to Arizona, the Thursday thing, whatever. But Detroit Lions director of college scouting, Dave Sears, was hired to be their new assistant general manager. They didn't take long to name GM Monty Austinfort. The connection with D'Amico Ryans is they're all from the Texans. Sears and Osenfort were scouts in the early 2000s. It was the year before D'Amico Ryans was drafted in the second round, but like it's a relationship business. So this is like Game of Thrones, but at least in a TV show, we'd have some clues dropped. Like we'd see some breadcrumbs. We're just all kind of, swimming in the dark here in this coaching search.
We're swimming in the dark. And I mean, look, last year we had the connection between George Payton and Dan Quinn, right?
Oh, yeah.
But nothing came of that. The interview with Dan Quinn wasn't great, I think, and others did. And I think the Broncos probably fell victim to the siren song of the great interview, which is something that's happened before. It happened to them with Josh McDaniels. It happened to them with Vic Fangio as well. I know you like to say, hey, Mike Tomlin nailed the interview and Pittsburgh made the right call on that. But there are probably more bad calls made by falling for the interview rather than the body of work. I think Pittsburgh's probably the exception to the rule as far as that goes. So now here we are again. I wonder what choice George Payton would make if it were entirely up to him in this process.
Wouldn't it be Quinn?
Interesting thing.
Wouldn't it be Quinn?
So. You'd think so, yes. You'd think so. And does the fact that Dan Quinn is probably George Payton's choice, does that hurt Quinn's candidacy with the rest of the room? Or are they willing to listen to George Payton and say, okay, this is what I know about him, going all the way back to the mid-2000s. We worked together down in Miami, and this is the type of coach that we're getting. Do you think that Rob Walton, Kerry Walton-Penner, Condoleezza Rice, Greg Penner, do you think that sways them a little bit? And of course, with Rob Walton and Kerry Walton-Penner, that's assuming that Dan Quinn makes to the final round, because that's where the two of them with Walton in their name come in. And that's kind of a key thing as well, is that the two owners who have the name Walton on their business card come in at the final moment. I think that's very telling and very key in this whole process.
I think I might change my last name to Walton just to get some respect. Cecil, Lammey, Walton, Penner, something. I do have a Georgetown jersey, Allen Iverson. I should wear it on the show sometime, but it's too damn cold. By the way, was it you or was it James that wrote about the Jim Harbaugh thing? Lawrence Matthews spies on Facebook. What is he spying?
I think James wrote about D'Amico Ryans. I believe with Jim Harbaugh, it was, I think Will wrote it, but it was in reaction. Okay. But here's the thing. It was in reaction to a discussion on the air.
On Stokely and Zach.
With Stokely and Zach regarding Jim Harbaugh. And so they asked me about it. And honestly, to me, Jim Harbaugh had his shot. And I think he kind of blew it when he said, oh, we'll just do this virtually. Greg Penner, Condoleezza Rice, George Payton would have been more than happy to fuel up the jet and fly to Ann Arbor to do that interview in person, right? Because they flew everywhere else to talk to everybody else. They haven't done except for Ejiro Evero, who was right there in the building. They haven't done an interview in the building to this point. It was going around the country, not to the degree of last year, but they're willing to go where they needed to go to have the interview. And so, to me, Harbaugh kind of half-assed it by saying, "Oh, let's just do this virtually," and that's why I'd say you just kind of move on. I mean, it's got the way Stoke and Zach are framing, it's almost like, does Jim Harbaugh regret not getting not getting involved? Because here he is, he doesn't have a contract yet, and you still have the NCAA sniffing around.
Right, and that's something I remember talking to D-Mac about that. I think it was on Coffee Break, and he's like, Harbaugh lied. I'm like, he's a coach. That's what they do. There is an interesting question from Chris. He's our dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
He looks a little like Jesse from Breaking Bad. I gotta tell you, Chris. That's not a bad thing, right? Right? He's a fantastic actor. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
does Mike McCarthy get canned? We're making light of that. Dan Quinn is available. Everybody, it is Jerry Jones. The Sean Payton thing's already crazy. Does Jerry Jones make it crazier?
Well, here we are a day later, and so far nothing has happened. What Jerry Jones said last night was that the result of the game didn't change where he stood on Mike McCarthy.
Okay.
That could mean anything, right?
It could. Already among the lowest paid head coaches in the league. Can you believe that with Jerry? He's around $3 million a year. And that's, I think, third lowest. Mike McCarthy is one of the lowest paid head coaches in the league.
And isn't Dan Quinn the highest paid defensive coordinator in football?
I believe so. Yeah.
How about that? Where does Kellen Moore stack up as well? I mean,
exactly.
But here's the thing with Dallas. There were everyone's we can focus on just that craptacular end game play. I mean, Tom McMahon, you're off the hook. I mean, what the Cowboys were thinking, I don't know. But there were other procedural issues throughout the game. I mean, like when they punted before the 2-minute warning, you can't take that long to get it off. I mean, I think it was 40 seconds. No.
Yeah.
You can do that in half the time if you've actually got your head screwed on straight, but they don't. The Cowboys just seem to be always beset with these kind of procedural things, and that comes back to coaching ultimately, right? I mean, Dallas could use a Jerry Rosberg in there. Hey, maybe they should hire Jerry Rosberg, bring Jer Bear down there. We know that Jer Bear has submitted his plan to the Broncos. And by the way, I would be fine with Jerry Rosberg as head coach. Let me say that right now. No question. I would absolutely be fine. I think it would actually be an imaginative choice. And there's also this logic to if you had Jerry Rosberg in. He was an insider outsider this year, right? Like he's in the building, he's doing game management, but he wasn't with the coaches all the time. He was, working with the analytics people mostly. He was observing close enough to really get a sense of what's going on, but had some distance from it. And so I think that's actually the perfect kind of thing. It's almost like he was one of the Bobs in Office Space, kind of, observing and seeing, okay, well, this person has value, this doesn't. And I would be curious to know what the details of Jerry Rosberg's plan were based on that kind of outsider, insider, that line that he was walking. He might actually have the best ideas for fixing this based on the view that he had.
Yeah, already up close and personal. Guys love him, and he doesn't need to do this anymore.
Yeah,
what would you say you do here?
You think that's what he said to Dwayne Stukes? What would you say you do here? And that when he got the job, and you know how the Bobs, like, they're looking at like, well, Tom Simkowski, well, he's useless. I mean, do you think Rosberg looked at Bush Berry? Well, I mean, look how the Lions playing. He's useless. Let's just go on to somebody else here.
I like when the two Bobs were trying to pronounce Nainanajad's name, and they're like, Nainana, not going to work here anymore.
Not going to work here anymore.
By the way, Nathaniel Hackett, when he saw that last play for the Cowboys, was like this. Hey, I know that.
Yeah.
I know those game management issues, but yeah, it's always in motion are things in the NFL, Mace.
Yes, very nice little Jedi quote there.
Always
in motion. The future is. You think that Jerry Rosberg looked at Justin Alton, who, by the way, is going to interview with the Baltimore Ravens about being their play caller. You think he looked at Justin Alton and said, "That's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him."
Because Justin Alton now getting interest.
Yeah, I think this is the. I believe the Ravens are going to be the third team to talk to him.
Yeah.
By the way, what are the Jets thinking? They talked to two of the three play callers from the Broncos about becoming their OC, Nathaniel Hackett, Clint Kubiak. They don't talk to the guy who had the most success on a per game basis. This is why the Jets are the Jets, I think.
Yeah, and that's why the Jets are going to get Derek Carr or whatever. I don't know. We'll see.
Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe.
Maybe. It's going to be exciting offseason. I don't think Tommy Brady's going to San Francisco anymore. I thought for sure he was, and then Brock Purdy just went on a roll, man.
I think Tom Brady's going to be wearing the silver and black, which makes it
stings the nostrils.
Yeah, it does. But it tells you that if Justin Herbert keeps playing well, I think we can all assume Patrick Mahomes, he could retire tomorrow. He'd be a Hall of Famer. I think he's done enough. I think Justin Herbert could someday find himself on that track. And if Russell Wilson can put it back together this year, he's back on the Hall of Fame path, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine,
for sure.
Imagine a division that has 4 future Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
The pretty tough division.
That's where the AFC West would be if Tom Brady comes in potentially. That's what you might be looking at. Kind of reading the tea leaves. That looks like where it's going is Tom Brady in Vegas.
Yeah. And to quote Peyton Manning, there ain't nothing easy out there.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't going to be nothing easy in the AFC West if Brady comes there.
And do you think if you're Sean Payton, you think about that for a moment? That, okay, I think Russell Wilson can put it back together maybe, but what are the odds of having the kind of success that I had in New Orleans? Unfortunately, they're not great if you start looking at how stacked the division is, at least in the short term. And, oh, by the way, if Sean Payton comes here, you're sacrificing what, at minimum, a first and 2/3, perhaps?
Right.
Imagine if your first draft, you don't pick until the 4th round. I mean, that's going to be heartbreaking for you and I if that's the case.
Oh, it's going to be a gut punch. It's like, you better be good on day 3 because that's all the picks you have. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that.
Some 4th round starters, baby. Well, you found one last year in Damari Mathis. So, hey,
right,
good.
Right.
But, I'm trying to separate my own view, my selfish view that I don't want to go through a draft process covering a team that doesn't pick until the 4th round. I would hate that. So I'm just kind of focused on the logic. The logic is Sean Payton that draft capital better than Dan Quinn, better than Jim Caldwell, better than David Shaw? Hey, I'll even toss it out there. Better than Jerry Rosberg. I'm not sure about that. I mean,
yeah. And we have to look at the division rival thing also for the other teams that have interest in Sean Payton, Arizona. Well, now you're stuck with San Francisco and you're stuck with Seattle. You know, if you go to Carolina, okay, who's your quarterback? Right.
Yeah.
But you have a better division to look at.
The NFC West is still much more there for the taking than the AFC West because as good as San Francisco is, and Seattle showed a spark, but does anyone think Geno Smith's going to do it for several years? No. I would argue in terms of raw talent in that division, the best quarterback in the NFC West is the one that you'd have in Arizona, and that's Kyler Murray. Now you got to kind of work on him a little bit. You got to get him, studying right, but you could do some pretty amazing things with Kyler Murray if you get him channeled properly once he gets back from the ACL. And then you mentioned the NFC South. Tom Brady's probably leaving the division.
Right.
Atlanta might be playing this year to see what they have in Desmond Ridder. New Orleans, if they trade with Carolina, if Carolina sends a first-round pick plus something else to New Orleans for Sean Payton, I would imagine the Saints jump into the Will Levis conversation. I'm not a fan of Will Levis. I'm sure we'll talk about.
He's
prospects.
Further down my rankings now. Yeah. Where he gets drafted will be much higher than where I have him ranked.
Yes, I think he's way down. I personally would rather have Hendon Hooker, even with a torn ACL, than Will Levis.
Yes, and we have to remember also, it was a year ago at the Senior Bowl, there were conversations about Detroit taking Malik Willis at 2.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen, and they coached him last year. By the way, no coaching staffs at the Senior Bowl this year. That'll be at the Shrine.
Right.
So we're going to be around Belichick. We got to catch a Belichick presser together, dude. Because, if you get him talking on the right subject, he's awesome.
Here's the thing, though. He's observing the whole thing is you have the Falcons and Patriots staffs that are going to be at the Shrine, but the assistants are going to move up a level. So you're going to have position coaches coordinating, for example. Belichick and Arthur Smith are going to be kind of overseeing it. So I wonder if that means that the coaches who talk are actually going to be the assistants. If we're talking, if we are talking about Steve Belichick doing the media rather than Bill Belichick. I hope it's Bill because, yes, there are always philosophical questions about football I like to ask Bill. Whenever he's been on the conference call when the Broncos have played the Patriots, what gets him going. And so it's always me that's asking the question like, hey, you coached Steve Atwater back in 99. Let's talk about the evolution of the safety position. He gives you an answer for that lasts 6 minutes, right? So that's interesting to think about. But yeah, it's the Senior Bowl that's got the hodgepodge staff. With everyone kind of going in. This is it's a new world. It's a new world for these games. It's a new world.
If the Shrine game can get better talent, and I know Eric Galco, who runs it, who's done a fantastic job. Hell, Brock Purdy was there at that game last year. But the NFL's kind of the doors open for the Shrine to rival the Senior Bowl. I don't want to say overtake the Senior Bowl, but there is a friendly competition between Jim Nagy and Eric Galco. I've known Galco since he was 18. And him coming up through the ranks. So the NFL now clearly is on board with the Shrine Bowl, same week as the Pro Bowl, follows it around, whatever. There's an opportunity here for things to change for selfish reasons, Mace, for our travel plans.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a Vegas person, so
we're there for the work, which is funny, and I'm glad it's not like the Senior Bowl, because the Senior Bowl is just ridiculous now because everyone goes to take selfies, and I've seen people that are major media names, I'm using air quotes, that don't even take a notebook. They're there to chase chunky interns at Veets after practice.
You always go back to that whole thing.
The chunky interns, oh yeah, it's pretty offensive, man. It's offensive to me. Because when you and I are there and we're working hard and we're taking notes and we're seeing a Quinn Miners, right? We're seeing a Baron Browning. We're seeing a Jonathan Cooper. I went on Broncos TV and talked about Jonathan Cooper that year, about how they need him. I was on with Sidney Jones from Mobile. And again, not about hits or misses. And I learn more from my misses. And I'm not perfect on a lot of things. But I will say it's offensive to me, because it's what people listen to, and there are people out there, if I get my soapbox out, but there are people in the media that you're really going to listen to because you're not at the Senior Bowl. You're not there. And that's fine. We're there for you. But when people that fans will listen to are just chasing chunky interns and boozing it up and don't take notebooks and don't take notes and don't do anything, just go there and take selfies. I think it's offensive and it's disingenuous to the listening audience. And I promise the listening audience and the viewing audience, I'm not going to be right about everything, but I'm going to work hard and here's what's happening. Here's what I'm hearing. You're the same damn way. It's the reason why we get along so well. It's the reason why we wanted to do a show together for 20 years, whatever. It's let's go do the work. So we're both going to be in Vegas. You know how much partying I'm going to do? About that much.
Yeah.
Because it's time to work, baby.
There's no time to do that. I mean, we're going to be watching practices and then...
practice 8 a.m. in the morning. There ain't no time for that.
And then go and talk to guys after, right? I mean, we want to, getting stories and things like that. I'll say this. I worry less about what other people do. And I just say, I'm focusing on doing my job, just like I know you focus on doing your job really well. So yeah, you know what? That's probably going to be me sitting in a booth at Winsel's right before it closes, getting my dinner, but having my iPad open and typing my story right as they drop a big thing of 16 oysters right there. But I'll thank you, and I'll just kind of go back to that's sort of my thing, because there's no time to waste, right? I mean, it's good. We got 2.5 days down there in Mobile. We got 2 days in Vegas. We got to get right. It's entirely possible, Cecil, you and I might be watching a coach hiring press conference between practices next week, right?
I know. I
if
know.
they
And
don't get it done this week.
I wanted the new head coach to be in place for the Senior Bowl, and I don't know. What kind of timeline do you think? Again, we don't really know the Sean Payton timeline, which I think is what it all hinges on. And correct me if I'm wrong, they only had 1 second interview last year, right? And it was Hackett. Is that correct?
We were joking on the text chain earlier today that when it looked like Peyton might be coming on Wednesday night, like, is one of us going to go stake out on Los Dos down off of County Line just in case?
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you can. Hey, it's a good meal, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
I'm not the tamales. I get a shrimp burrito down there, but hey, I love my food down there. I mean, I may have to abandon the diet for a night if I have to go down there and just kind of just scope out just to see. You never know, but
you never know who's going to come across there.
But my guess is this is going to happen in stealth. This is going to the conversations are going to involve food being delivered to Broncos headquarters.
Okay.
Yes,
maybe food being delivered to the private jet, like something
possible. I mean, this is going to happen quietly, although it may be. I may need to start doing some plane tracking this week as well. You know how I like to do that.
Oh yeah. Well, all we got to do is put a tracker on Mike Kliss, and he's in some dumpster at Centennial Airport, like hiding out with the binoculars.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen when we're on the road, and that kind of sucks for us. Again, we'll be selfish today, but like it kind of sucks because we won't be available for the press, like in-person press conference. But just the way things are timing up, like they get the second interviews today. Imagine a week from now, right? And we're in Las Vegas, a Shrine game, and Broncos hire head coach.
I have a feeling we might be literally in transit when a press conference happens.
First day of practice for Mobile is Tuesday.
Right. That's why
that could be Monday, what it is. Yeah.
Or if it's Monday, that we're literally meandering our way across the country from Las Vegas to Mobile. And of course, neither one of us is flying into Mobile because it's a terrible airport to get in and out. By the way, like, it's always bugged me. Why can't Mobile and Pensacola, why couldn't they just gotten together and built one airport halfway between the cities off I-10 and Baldwin County that actually probably would have been a good-sized airport, right? So instead, you have these two rinky-dink airports, and then you have another rinky-dink airport down in Fort Walton Beach, right? To me, it just called for like a sizable regional airport where, you know what? You could have gone nonstop from Denver or Las Vegas, right? And everyone would have been happy. Would have been a lot easier for everybody. But it was getting all this planned was a little bit of a challenge too, because I thought, okay, if they do a coaching search soon, I'll be flying out of Wisconsin. No, I'm still here in Colorado. And next weekend is going to be really interesting because I come back from Mobile and then I drive to Wisconsin and then I fly to Phoenix because I'm going to be talking to people down there about what they think of whoever the coach is that the Broncos hired. All weekend, talking like I'm going to be the person on media night that will be going up to let's say, for example, it's Sean
Roger Goodell or whatever.
I'm going to be the person on media night going up to anybody who's played for Sean Payton or anybody who's played for a coach who's going to be on the staff and asking, what do you think about it? So basically it's going to be Super Bowl coverage, but it's going to be Denverized. By the way, this is the one goofy thing that I was rooting for over the course of the weekend. It hit me. If you had a Buffalo Philadelphia Super Bowl, you'd have two ex-Broncos punters because you'd have Sam Martin and Brett Kern. By the way, Brett Kern, if the Eagles make the Super Bowl, that I guarantee you will be a story that I write Super Bowl week because he is the original sin of the Broncos punting issues. And they had some good seasons with Britton Colquitt, although it's very telling that in terms of net average for these 6 years that Britton Colquitt was here in Denver, Brett Kern had a better net average 4 times. Okay, 4.
Yeah.
So Brett Kern was usually better. Cutting Brett Kern, Josh McDaniels at 6-0 back in 2009, the original sin of all this. at punting. Why do we get so frustrated? Why are we like, oh, I wish we had that great punter? You know what? You did. You had a guy who went on to become an All-Pro.
Right.
And you cut him. Brett Kern could be going on his 15th season right now. Would have been the best punter in Bronco history. But Josh McDaniels cut him. Do you remember who he cut him for?
Ooh, I did at one point, but my mind is frazzled. So tell me who it is.
Mitch Berger.
Mitch Berger. There you go.
There's your trivia for the day.
Oh, Josh McDaniels. Why he was allowed to ever touch this franchise, I'll never know.
And then
I always said he had sparklers. Like there was something to make Joe Ellis distracted in his interview. Like, was he juggling? Did he do magic tricks? Was he just like, oh, Joe, you got a quarter behind your ear. Woo! And then Joe Ellis is like, wow, Josh McDaniels.
Everyone gave him credit for Matt Castle that year, remember? Patriots won 11-5. They missed the playoffs on a tiebreaker. Yeah, it was ridiculous. The Chargers went to the playoffs at 8-8 as division champions. And the Pats at 11-5 became the first 11-5 team since the '85 Broncos to miss the postseason. But I can't. You know what? I can't blame people for being sucked in, but it's in retrospect. Just no.
Yeah,
no.
Should have worked it out with Mike. Should have fired Mike the GM and made Mike the head coach stick around. But who would have known if that would have happened?
Remember, though, you needed to make a change at defensive coordinator. Mike did not want to fire Bob Slowick. That was a big thing that went into that. Mike didn't want to make a change at defensive coordinator. Wanted to give Slowick another year. And that defense in 2008 was awful. Terrible. I mean, that was the biggest reason why the whole thing collapsed. They couldn't stop anybody. I mean, I think actually in DVOA, they were worse in defense that year than they were in 2010, which was bad. And they were really bad that year, but they were worse in 2008. So, anyway.
Lurker Troy says, glad the Raiders have him. Yeah, for now.
Yeah, but who won the games this past season?
Yeah, exactly. Scoreboard always tells the truth. But hey, you and I both agree the Broncos can win games. The Broncos can make a playoff push. You find the right head coach. Doesn't have to be Sean Payton.
No. I think the best path to the playoffs, at least this year, I mean, let's go down the Dan Quinn road for a moment. Dan Quinn, let's say Darrell Bevell, offensive coordinator. You bring him from Miami where he's pass game coordinator. You get Bevell back working with Russell Wilson. Maybe even go another step into the past and bring in Paul Chryst as Russ Wilson's past and bring in Paul Chryst as a quarterback coach. You keep status quo or close to it on the defensive side because I don't think Evero is getting a job this cycle as a head coach. I don't think that's happening.
We're a year early for him.
And then yes, you go to Jerry Rosberg and say, do you want to be assistant head coach / special teams? Just give us a year. You can train your replacement. What's it going to take? Money is obviously no object, right? If you did that, brought back Mike Munchak on the offensive line, made a couple of other good hires on the offensive side. Cecil, I think you got a staff that you can go to the playoffs with. I think you have a playoff equation. Oh, by the way, you've kept your draft capital, which means you can start rebuilding that offensive line. That's, by the way, I'm a little fired up on the O-line because I'm working on that in my State of the Roster series today. So,
right.
Yeah, it's like, it's a mess. But I do write. I think I do have written in the paragraph, bring back Mike Munchak, no matter who the head coach is, because I think Mike Munchak would take a job here regardless of who's the head coach. And
I'm glad Jerry Rosberg did have those comments about sticking around because we all thought he'd be in the hyperbolic chamber, selling him to Joe Rogan or whatever. Like maybe Walmart could just buy his company. That's the type of money, you know what I mean? Like, hey, we will buy your company. You can run it when you're done being assistant head coach.
Wow. That's
the type of level we're on, dude.
I know, but you're right. I mean, let's say the company was worth $30 million, right?
Here's a check.
Here's a check. We want you back.
And if you're Jerry Rosberg, like, you get all your dreams come true.
Yeah. You're a better organization with Jerry Rosberg than without him.
Mm-hmm.
I come back to that often as well when I think about it. You were a better team when Jerry Rosberg had more responsibility. And it was just, it was profound. I mean, players got better. Coaches got better.
They played for him.
That team, the last couple of games, even with all the injuries, that team would have won 10 games. Even missing all the players they were missing, that team would have won 10 games.
Yeah. And bottom line, 8. I mean, you are playoff already. And that was good football.
It was.
From that team. And Justin Outen, I feel bad I ever talked a bunch of crap about him because I never said anything good about him. And then the last 2 games, I was like, oh my God, Justin Outen. And it makes sense. These guys don't forget, you know.
Honestly, I was really happy for Justin.
Me too.
And I'll say I was also a little happy selfishly because I didn't really talk down about him very much.
I did all the time. My foot's right in my mouth.
I just I thought he had something. I had a really fascinating conversation with him at the Combine, talking about getting players to do things that maybe they didn't want to do, but they needed to do. And specifically, we're talking about tight ends learning how to block. And he was telling a story about Mercedes Lewis in particular. Not something he really wanted to do at the end of his career. But when they sold him on it and he went out there and actually did it and did it well, the joy that the player felt and the coaches felt, it was like, yeah, and to me, at its core, that's what coaching is all about. And I think about that conversation and I think maybe that's part of why Jerry Rosberg gave Justin Outen the play calling, because that's very similar to the way Rosberg is wired too, and how he views coaching and teaching. I think
you're a teacher.
Yeah. And I think, and the other thing is, and I was thinking about this as well, it's not a coincidence probably that that Baltimore, where John Harbaugh is the coach, who is a close friend of Jerry Rosberg, not a coincidence that they're interviewing him. Tells you how it all fits. It's a game of relationships, right? It's an industry of relationships. And I think Jerry Rosberg and Justin Outen developed something that may really help Justin Outen in the long term, may take his career to the next level.
Orange and blue today. Come hell or high water, power outage on the mountain or no. 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. We are here for you. He is Andrew Mason. I am Cecil Lammey. We appreciate all the love. People telling us to go to an hour. Hell, we're almost at an hour, baby. So
this is 38 minutes today.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. He is Andrew Mason. You follow him on Twitter at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey. Don't follow me. Anyway, we appreciate you. Be safe. Be kind. Know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, please stay frosty.